Peace be with you. Dear friends, we are celebrating 31st Sunday in Ordinary Time. We have the Gospel from St. Mark, chapter 12, verses 28 to 34. Here in this Gospel, Jesus was disputing with the scribes and Pharisees. And as he was giving them right answers, there comes a scribe who is an expert in the law, approaches Jesus and asks a question. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment of all? Which is the first commandment of all? This is a right question. We do not know exactly whether this question was put to test Jesus or genuinely he asked that question. But one thing is sure, that all of us want to know the best things in life. We always have that curiosity to find out and learn the best things in life. Sometimes we make wrong choices in going after the best things. But human mind always aspires for something very noble, something very, very important. And that's why there is nothing wrong in the scribes questioning Jesus, which is the greatest commandment of all. And Jesus immediately answers without hesitation, as was his normal attitude towards the questions that were put by scribes and Pharisees and Sadducees. He answers, there is one God and there is none other than one God. And you shall love the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And then love your neighbor as you love yourself. These two commandments are taken from the Old Testament. The first one is taken from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 2 to 6. And the second one from Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. Now the first commandment, there is one God who is above all. Dear friends, this is a truth that we all must confess and must accept. We speak of adoration. Only God deserves adoration because He has created this immense universe. So we need to respect, we need to adore the Lord and love the Lord with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our might. That's a fact. We cannot accept any other thing in our heart than God. We need to give God priority. God must be the center of our life. And God on His part responds to humanity with that generosity. God says, I will not forget you. Even if a mother forgets her baby, I will not forget you because I have carved your name on the palm of my hands. That is the love of God. We find it in Isaiah chapter 49, verses 15 to 16. And the immensity of God is also in Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 to 9. We find there, my thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways, my thoughts are higher than your thoughts, my ways are higher than your ways, means the immensity of God. Sometimes I am just, astounded. This awesome universe God has created. The millions and zillions and trillions of stars and galaxies, this immensity of this universe, so beautiful, so ravishing. Last time when I went through some details about the stars, there is a star, Scuti star. Its diameter, it seems, 2.4 billion kilometers. it is a staggering figure. UY Scuti, that star's diameter is 2.4 billion kilometers. Human mind cannot grasp that. That means such a big stars are there in this universe, created by God. So you can just imagine the immensity of God, greatness of God. And He deserves our love. As St. John says in his first letter, chapter 4, very clearly, God loved us first. That immensity of God's love is poured into our hearts. We cannot imagine the love of God, and that's why He gives the expression beautifully. 1 John chapter 4 verse 16, God is love. And ultimately what remains is love. God alone remains. As St. Paul in his first letter to Corinthians chapter 13 says, everything will have an end. Even to faith and hope there is an end. But there is no end for love, because love is eternal, as God is eternal. So that is the love of God we need to grasp in our daily lives. That's why the first commandment, the most important commandment, love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. That means we cannot give our heart to anything in the world or to any person in the world, rather only to God. That is the first commandment. Very important to understand. When we have that very clear in our mind, then we also see the reflection of God in the other, that is our neighbor. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Because God has loved me and I love myself, and that is very clear in my daily life, how I love myself, the way I take care of myself, the way I feed myself, take rest, and take care of my body, my mind. In the same way, Jesus expresses the second part of this commandment, love your neighbor as you love yourself. How it can be understood? Dear friends, in Genesis chapter 1 verse 27, it is clearly stated that God has created us in His own image. That means every individual, every person in this world reflects the image of God. That means when I see the other, I see God in a concrete situation. And therefore, loving my neighbor is as important as I love my God, because I see God's image in the other person. How can I do it in my daily life concretely? It is caring, being compassionate, forgiving, understanding, loving, being generous. You see, the whole lot of the Beatitudes, Matthew's Gospel chapter 5 to 7, the whole block speaks to us about our love towards our neighbor. Do good to those who hate you. If someone slaps you on your right cheek, show him also your left. If someone forces you to go 1 mile with him, go with him 2 miles. So that means love of neighbor is a difficult thing. As Scott Peck says in his book, The Road Less Traveled, he puts it in a beautiful way. Falling in love is easy. Loving is difficult, because love means sacrifice. Without sacrifice, there is no love. So that is quite visible, very evident in the life of Jesus. Though He was in the form of God, Jesus did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped. He emptied himself, became a slave, taking the form of a human person. He became obedient unto death, even death on a cross, for us, out of love for us, to redeem us. And at the Last Supper, we see him washing the feet of his disciples. And he calls the attention of the disciples. You know what I have done, being your teacher. You must love one another as I have loved you. That is love of neighbor. Doing good to others, willing the good of the other. That is love of neighbor. If we can grasp that, dear friends, in our lives, many things will be easy. At times, there are blocks, roadblocks on our journey to God, because we would like to love God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind and strength, but we fail to love our neighbor. So love cannot be complete. So that requires tremendous effort on our part, sacrifice on our part to love our neighbor selflessly. As St. Augustine says, love and do what you want. Easily said, but it is difficult to practically live that expression. Therefore, dear friends, today as we are celebrating 31st Sunday, this is an invitation to all of us, especially when we participate in the Holy Eucharist, as Jesus died on the cross, offering his body and blood for our spiritual sustenance. In the same way, we are called to die to ourselves in order to express our love towards our neighbor. Concrete actions are needed in order to show that love towards the other, willing the good of the other, and then our love becomes complete. Today, during the Holy Eucharist, let us ask the Lord as he comes into our hearts, because he died for me. Therefore, I must be ready to sacrifice something for my neighbor in witness to the love of Christ. God bless you.